The first part of this chapter is going to talk about solving problems with physics. As you see here in this picture, something that we're all accustomed to now is the GPS on our phone. Well, what does that have to do with physics? Well, in order for that GPS to track you, there's a satellite that's in space that's orbiting the Earth. How do they determine where to place a satellite? How quickly it's going to orbit? All of these things so that they can triangulate with trigonometry and calculate where something is located. And so physics affects more than we ever realize. And so a simple question, what can we do with physics, is actually not simple at all, because it's a very loaded question, as there are so many things that you are going to see throughout this year that you can do with physics. So then the question is, what is physics? Physics is the study of matter and energy and the interactions between them. So, what is the purpose of physics? Well, there are practical benefits, like we talked about, something as simple as location tracking. And then we have minimize human suffering. We know that we are called to take care of those around us. We're called to the dominion mandate that we have been given. And part of that includes using the talents that we have and the knowledge that we have in order to meet the needs of the people around us. Now, this stems from our worldview. Your worldview, as we've talked about before, is going to affect everything that you do. A worldview is a set of basic beliefs and assumptions and values that arise from an overachieving narrative about the world. And so, if you have a biblical worldview, you are going to look at the world of physics through that lens. Our biblical worldview teaches us that God gave us a job to do, and that is the creation mandate. And so we need to understand how creation works so that we can take care of God's creation. And part of understanding how the world works, a big part of that, is physics. So, what are some of the challenges that face physics? Well, the fall affects both the created world and our ability to work in it. Because, as we know, we were created to work, but we know that after the fall, work was made difficult. And so the creation mandate helps us to mitigate the effects of the fall, or to limit the effects by taking care of the world around us. And physics is one of the ways that we can be good stewards of what God has given us. One of the ways that we do that is the study of the natural world, which is science. And physics is one of the sciences that you will learn throughout your high school career as you study the world around you. So let's look at the work of physics. Physics does have limitations. It is not exhaustive and all inclusive. We can only work with the knowledge that we have. So science seeks to model how the universe works, but in order to do that, models need to be workable. So workability is basically how well that model explains or describes a specific feature of what we see in the world around us. So models are only useful as long as they can consistently explain what we are observing and reliably predict new ones. So if your model is inaccurate, then it's not going to be useful in the world of physics. So let's look at some of the different types of physics that you will see. The first one is astrophysicist. They seek to understand the nature of celestial objects. So when we're looking at how planets orbit, these are our astrophysicists. Nuclear physicists study the tiniest parts of matter, like atoms, subatomic particles. Atmospheric physicists study the complex dynamics of our atmosphere. Geophysicists study the Earth, so the plate tectonics, the magnetic field. Applied physicists use knowledge gained by others to solve practical problems, developing technologies. So, along with every field, you have something called ethics. And ethics is the application of moral principles to how we live our lives. So, physics in and of itself is neither good nor bad. Physics is a tool in which we can learn how things work and how the world works around us. But just like the biblical worldview, our ethics are going to affect how we use physics. And so you can look throughout history and see how physics was used to destroy or physics has been used to build. And so that is where our ethics come into play when we are using our knowledge about physics and how things work. So then as a Christian, we should have Christian ethics when we study the world of physics. So our biblical principles, this is what does God's word say about a specific issue? And then we're going to look at our biblical outcomes. So based on that, what results are right? And then we look at our motivations. How can I grow through this decision? And this doesn't just apply to physics. This is going to apply to everything. We should apply our biblical principles when we come up to an issue. We could say, what does God say about it? When we make a decision, is this going to have an outcome that's based on our biblical principles? And why are we doing what we're doing? What is our motivation? This should also be based through our biblical worldview lens. So going back to that very first question, what can we do with physics? Well, physics provides a systematic way to investigate the physical world. What we learn in physics enables us to solve problems to the glory of God and for the benefit of people.